Hey pilots, welcome back for day 3 of our assembly on the little PA-22. If you've decided to join us and build along with us, it's been a lot of fun doing this little project. Today we're going to get our elevator and our rudder servos installed, and we'll see how far else we get today. But yesterday we got the elevators on, they've been setting, they're glued now. Everything's looking good on them. And the only thing I did between yesterday and today that was kind of off camera, I'm gonna hold this up here, is I went on ahead and screwed in 2 standard size servos into the fuselage. Any standard size is gonna work. The reason I didn't use the same free wing servos we've been using on the wings is because the holes are cut out for full size servos. So you have to use full size unless you're gonna replace this tray. You don't need anything crazy. These are just some old standard servos I had in a bin outside. Nothing fancy here. It's a very small airplane, so any standard size servo should be more than enough torque. I just made sure they were metal gear to match the other ones, and they don't need to run on a super high voltage. They're just standard voltage. But yeah, I went on ahead and screwed those down. It's just 4 screws, nothing really big to do there. And I've slid my rods back in since yesterday. They are still way longer than they need to be. They're up here, and the servos are back here. It's because we're gonna cut them as we go. Now, you're gonna need a 1.5 millimeter Allen key. This is the one out of my Benchcraft 6-in-1 screwdriver, and this is an actual standard 1.5 Allen key. And the reason we're gonna need that is you can't fit a full-size screwdriver in here to tighten everything up. And on this kit, many of the Nexa aircraft use this too. There is this little guy. Focus. This little guy right here. Don't lose this. These are like hen's teeth in rarity. They are not a separate part that's sold separately. I wish they were. I have had that conversation with our Nexa manufacturer, and currently you still cannot get these anywhere that I know of. But maybe that'll change in the future. But we're going to use this to link both of our elevator halves inside of the fuselage. Instead of using 2 servos, we're going to use this to put both of our linkages into one, and then have 1 bar coming out of the middle that goes into the servo. So what I'm going to do for now is go on and find my 2 elevator halves. And they are these 2 rods right here. And we're going to slide our little thing down on there, leaving the center open. But we're going to push that down in there past the servo. Now we need to make a 3rd rod, which I cut a couple off earlier whenever we were doing this. These rods were out to here, and I cut a little section off. We're going to reuse that section by placing it inside of the servo link, sliding it down, and now we're going to reach in there and just kind of gently tighten everything up for a second. We're not trying to get it so tight that it's hard to operate it all. We're gonna have to take it all loose again here in a little bit. Right now, all we're trying to do is get it roughly tightened up. Try and make the 2 elevator halves the same when we do this, although we are gonna take it back out and put some blue lock thread on it. That gets those, so I need to mark my bars of where I want to cut them off now. So I'm going to take a marker. Like I said, this is a hard part to show. But what I've done, let me open that door up again. You can see right here, my little block is in there. And I just need to figure out where I'm going to cut these rods off. So I'm going to take this one and cut it right here, and this one right here. So I know where I need them. And I can slide them back a little bit as we go. I'm also going to take the 3rd rod that I made, and I'm going to put a Z-bend in this one. If y'all didn't see this yesterday when I showed how to use this on some of the other specs, put that in there, give her a squeeze, and now we have a Z-bend. Super easy. So now I need to take my servo head off. I'm going to drill this out on the third hole out on the elevator. Make sure my little linkage will go in there, and it does, as you can see. Bend it just ever so slightly by hand. Now, I'm going to loosen these guys off. And I'm going to pull my two rods back out. So take your little easy link, put that somewhere you don't lose it. Now that we've marked our rods, we need to slide them back out and cut them down for the two elevator halves. We'll take that one. Make sure we have plenty of adjustment on both sides of the linkage back here in the back, because we want to be able to adjust it in and out if we need to. We're going to go to our mark, snip it off, just like so. Now, that little bit of a tang there might catch us, so I'm going to walk over to my little grinder and just clean it off. Okay, and now we need to slide her back in and attach it. There we go. Let's grab the other elevator half. Same thing as before. Cut this off. Tear on our mark. And save these rods in case we need them later for something else, like I used the other one. All right, got that cleaned up. We're gonna attach it again. Like so. Now, our rods are much shorter in there, so we can take our little easy link thing, slide that up in there. Now we're going to grab our servo horn with our long extension in it. We're going to slide that into the middle link. And then pop our horn on. And I centered the servos already too. You need to have done that when you come to do this part. But I'd already done it. All right. So now I'm going to put my servo screw back in so that doesn't fall off. We need to take and loosen up our little guys here. And I'm trying to figure out how to show you this. Like I said, it's just in a very awkward position. But now, we have the link installed here. We have our one push rod coming off of the servo connector into the middle, and then both of our two elevator halves to the outside. Now what I'm going to do is take and drop a drop of blue Loctite on all three, and then we're going to tighten it up. And when we do that, we're going to hold the elevator half back here straight. So here we go. Let me get a little blue Loctite. Red, we don't want that. Remember, don't use red Loctite. If you put that on there, you can never get it loose again. Drop of blue, and a little dab will do you on this stuff. There we go, a dab will do ya. I'm going to tighten them by hand at first with this little wrench. Then we're going to go back in with a good wrench, tighten it the rest of the way. We're going to hold the elevator half neutral and screw it down. Now, we need to look down from the back of the aircraft and see if it's actually got both elevator halves neutral. And we do not. The outside one is off just a little bit. Pretty darn close. I can got it hand tight enough that I can move it just that little bit. So what I'm trying to do, you can now see both of my elevators are the same before I cinch it up. Now I'm going to reach in there with my 1.5 millimeter actual Allen key and cinch these up the rest of the way. These come off in flight, it's game over. Hence why I also put Loctite on them. Now we can double check everything works by hooking up our servo checker and running our elevators. So let's grab our servo checker. There you go. Cool. So there's that. Now, just need to build our rudder. So for the rudder, pretty simple. We're just going to put a Z-bend in it. So we make sure it's hooked up, and it is, and that we have adjustment in and out both directions, which we do. So now we're going to hook up our rudder servo to our servo checker, hit the neutral button, make sure it's set and centered before we do this. Neutral. We're going to go to that outside hole to the inside. Hold the rudder as straight as possible. Now we're going to make our Z-bend mark. That's where we want our Z-bend at, right there. Now we can slide it back out, that control rod. Come around here to the back. Unclip. Here we go. So I got my mark right there where I need my Z-bend. I'll put that right where I need it. And hi-ya, there we go. Then we're going to cut off the excess. Like so. Take this over to the grinder and clean that off also. If you don't have access to a bench grinder, you can always use a little bit of sandpaper for that. Now, because I put a Z-bend on this, we cannot push this back through the back like we've been doing. What we have to do is unscrew the horn now. Set that aside, and we have to feed the wire through from the front now because we put a Z-bend on it. Now, if you use the little guys that it comes with, these things, you won't have to do that, but I'm Z-bending mine. It does come with these if you decide to put them in that way. But I know a Z-bend will never, ever, 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 ever come loose. So that's why I like them. We can put that in there now. Take our horn off. Just to give you kind of an update on where we're at internally. There's my rod we're doing for the rudder, and I've got that slid in. I just popped off my control horn because we're going to put our Z-bend into that horn now. All right, so let's drill out the third one out. We might as well go on and do the other side too, because we are going to end up putting our rudder in there. And I'm going to go on and put this guy in there too. So I am going to use one of these little links that it comes with. I'm going to go on and put it on the other side. This is going to be for my steering servo that we're going to put in at a later point. So I'm going to put my little washer on, and then I'm going to put this guy on with a little touch of thread lock. That way it's already in there and we're set to go, oops, when it comes time for it. A little bit of thread lock. Now, here's how my rudder one is set up. So you can see now I'm going to put my Z-bend on this side, and then this is going to be for my steering nose gear piece, so that I'll have adjustment left or right by moving it in and out of that. Now, the kit wants you to put everything together like this. Like I said, if you got a Z-bender, I would recommend doing that because it'll never let go. now we're gonna just reach in here and grab our rod. We're gonna put our horn on like that. Push it into the aircraft. Line it up, push it down. Grab our servo screw. Put that in the top. And thread it down. Now I will tell you, when we go to put the interior in this, right here is the magnet. And there's gonna be a steering servo arm coming right out of here. So our seat is gonna have to be cut out to make that fit in there, but we can do it, it's not a problem. All right, now, I know I've got power to my servo, so now we just gotta go on back to the back and put our links back on. All right, so now that we're here, we need to put our nut on first. Uh-oh, or drop it. All right, let's put our nut on. Tiny, tiny guy here, so if you drop it, make sure you got it over the table so don't fall on the floor. There you go. Just gonna run that way up there. Now we take our link, and we know our servo is centered currently, so we can just set this where it needs to be. So it needs to go out just a little bit. What I'm doing now is just centering my rudder by spinning this in and out. Oh, right on the chili willies. Then the last thing you do is just spin this little nut up there, and that tightens all these down. Could put a little touch of Loctite on them if you really want to. And you could, if you have any fuel tubing, put that around these to keep them from ever separating. Now these metal ones, I've never seen one give up the goose, but the old nylon ones would. All right, so now we can test it by putting it into manual mode. And my servo checker's not giving it very much volts, but there you go. Old servos too. Like I said, I had them. There we go, but they are working. Cool, it all works. So, at this point, let me give you a quick overview of the interior real quick, now that we've got this all assembled here. All right, so at this point, we have our elevator servo here, and you can see there is the horn. I've got it into that hole right there. It's like the third one out. It's gonna differ depending on which one you go. Then the center rod goes into the center point, tightened up, and then the two outsides are going out to the elevators. Over here on the rudder, I just brought it right in with a Z-bend into that. There is how yours should look. And I did drop glue right here on the last video to just go on and lock these in. They're sticking out to about here when you get it. They're right in the way. So I just took my die cutter and cut those off with my Dremel tool. And that gets our our elevator servo and our rudder servo installed in the aircraft. Now it's time to move on to landing gear. All right, pilots, so that gets our main servos installed for our elevator and our rudder. It's a little complicated being that you're inside the aircraft, but the nice thing is with this airplane, you have lots of room to put your hands in and work on it in this one. So don't be intimidated, it just takes a little bit. The biggest thing I can tell you, make sure you get 2 standard size servos, because if you get the wrong size servo, you're gonna have to modify it, and it wouldn't be fun to do that. So definitely just go on and budget 2 standard size servos when you're putting this one together. Other than that, it was super easy. Once again, the other modification I did was instead of using the little easy link type deals, I just Z-bent everything. So if you have access to a Z-bender, do that. If you want one, like I said, we do have one available here at Motion RC. And as always, guys, whether it's land, sea, or air, Motion RC has everything you want. Next video, we're gonna get these landing gear put on. See you then.